Hey everybody, I'm Nico,
And I'm TK.
and you caught that for half a second. There was a flinch. I wasn't sure what to say, but I'm
Where
here to
are we?
say
What's happening?
it's X's for comics. I think
Okay. I mean, those
it's
questions are relevant to the books in question. So,
I'm hoping that these are comic books because if not, I definitely 4.99 some things that I just don't understand. And we're gonna get to some stuff I did not understand, but
mm,
we're catching up on X-Men. We're catching up on Justice League. This is part of the Amalgam Project. Go check it out. cageclub.me/X. You guys want to be all over that. It's delicious. So let's talk chicken delicious here, right? Let's talk beef ridiculous. Let's get something for the vegan.
where are you getting these names? Are these dishes I don't know about?
No, I'm creating them right now for you.
Okay. Well, we have a new restaurant we're opening as well. X's
Right?
for food. We'll see you soon.
I can't wait because Menu Loquacious is going to be the greatest restaurant anyone's ever been to. So you guys just hold on to your tits, right? But so, okay, I want to start with we're doing X-Men and we're doing Justice League, but I just kind of want to open on Batman.
Yeah, sure.
This is the third ever first issue of a Batman volume,
Yep.
right? Third ever.
And I bet it's
issue.
the first time 2 volumes have been running concurrently.
Yes.
Way to get that. Way to take that Guinness record, Batman.
Oh my God, there's just some crazy shit happening here in Gotham. And so for those of you who aren't quite catching it, what happened is Hush 2, the worst thing to ever happen to Batman. I'm kidding. Hush 1 wasn't great either. I'm kidding. Hush 1 is great. This is sad. And so Hush 2 is kind of not just a creative odd step for a lot of fans, but additionally, one of the things that's kind of got some people down about Hush 2 is that it's way off shipping schedule. And so it's going the previous volume of Batman Volume 2 is going to finish as Batman Volume 3 is coming out.
And to be clear, Hush 2 is an arc in the pages of the current run of Batman, which is at issue 161, and the Hush storyline is not done. So Volume 2 and Volume 3 are running concurrently, and as Marvel tries to do a lot, and I have not been with DC, I think, long enough to see them doing this as much, but I believe they do it just as much. They are trying to say nothing will ever be the same after book 1, which isn't done, and book 2 that follows it is out now and shows you that stuff is essentially the same. I was so curious because just to go all the way to the end of the issue, we might have been able to say nothing is the same after Hush in Batman Volume 3 number 1. It's simple enough of story that you could say, like, there's so much we don't know that might have happened. All of these characters might be dead. Everybody might be mad at Batman. We don't know any of the fallout from Hush. But one really huge thing is at the very end of the issue, Damian is there. And it's not like his life is completely in flux, but I definitely, Hush has a lot of stuff about Bruce and his parents and the children. And for me, Damian is sort of in play, even as a very last minute new X-Men. Hush gives Damian a planetary stroke at the very end just to shock you, because it was always about Batman's family for him. But we know nothing like that happened, or if it does happen, it will immediately be solved with the power of friendship because Damian's just in the next issue.
Yep.
And so, like, if we talked about this last week on the podcast, but we got a great splash page of Bat people, including a very sexy Riddler showing up to confront Batman in the most recent issue of Hush number 161. And sure, maybe the Riddler's going to die in this. And then
why would you antagonize me?
Well, it would be Jeff Loeb who was antagonizing you, but maybe something. But like, that's not Nothing Will Ever Be the Same. That's a relatively easy villain to live without for 48 issues, even before you go, oh no, we resurrected him, is gone. And so just not a cute way to start your thing.
Yeah, and it's part of where, like, I had a little bit of trouble with this issue, to be honest. I came into it thinking, like, oh, cool, exciting number one. They say it's a number one like you've never had before. And I think about like the greatest runs of X-Men.
Sorry.
No, that seriously, that was so much more exciting than what happened in Batman number one.
Yeah.
Well, I have a Batman one.
Guys, our setup that we use to record these just gave us soundboards. So
I thought I was deleting. My bad.
no, I'm obsessed with it. I think you should interject randomly. Absolutely, you should. Yeah. Nico's making it rain. The applause is going up. Never
I'll
apologize.
find to make it rain. I'll find a whole bunch more.
Good.
So I think where I was a little frustrated is I think about some of the best Matt Fraction stories ever and how like Matt Fraction is able to make so much happen without a whole lot really happening on the page. And so like I think about some of my favorite runs, like his Hawkeye, his Iron Fist, where like a lot does happen, but like it happens in a controlled, moderate, energized way. This felt like what it maybe could have been was it was a beautiful issue and it was really well made. This didn't feel like a first issue in the modern era to me.
I think you mean it didn't feel like a great first issue in the modern era. It feels like a lot of first issues in the modern era. That's the problem. This feels exactly like the Batman equivalent of Joe Kelly's Spider-Man number one.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
We just do another Spider-Man story. I'll give Matt Fraction credit for this. We didn't do a ton of origin. Nobody is ever like, and as we know, when Thomas and Martha Wayne died, nothing was ever the same. They were actually
killed by Logan on the plane with Bucky.
We are pretty much just in like, yeah, you know, it's Batman. And he just solves one. Another thing I liked about this one, there's a lot of stuff I liked and still I didn't walk away thinking it was good, but like I hate crime Batman. I don't hate crime Batman, but I hate crime Batman. I'm just always sick of it. I really like Batman versus villains, super villains, ideally, not just like a guy who's eating at Peter Luger. And so this is an issue. I don't like that. Sorry.
Well, they're the greatest nemesis of Menu Ridiculous. Oh, Menu Loquacious. Oh, I'm so sorry. Menu Loquacious.
Okay.
I ruined the joke.
You're right though. They really are what's coming for us. This is him dealing with Killer Croc. Very simple story. Appreciated that it was not another detective story. You know, it wasn't gritty. I liked all those things about it. It Matt Fraction had the right idea and ethos. Execution just it was middling. It was not super special. Sort of insane to not be super special when you're talking about volume 3, number 1 of a book that basically never reboots.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just, you know, would have been really cool if this was like a game changer and you and I were sitting down with Jaws on the floor saying like, I can't believe we got this.
Agreed completely, especially because like he'll replace his children more often than they will reboot Detective Comics or Batman. Mm-hmm. So like, and don't get me wrong, Legends of the Dark Knight, title long time ago, long gone. These things happen. But like, no, there are certain staples. Batman is a staple, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like not enough happened in a way that was engaging to a new number one. I really liked what this did as an issue of Batman, but there's so much that goes into the bigger picture. And I know a lot of people say, man, can't stories just be stories anymore? No, not when you want the biggest payday to write Batman. But they didn't offer Matt Fraction Batman Legend of the Shadow number 1, some side title. They offered him Batman. So the issue's got to feel like Batman. And the man wrote a great Batman. And the art on this book, incredible, beautiful.
Great art.
But it felt so much like an issue in an era, not the start of an era. And I need you, if you're going to promise me this is a new beginning, to give me that new beginning.
And it also, the other thing was, it felt like this was a lot more about Matt Fraction telling you how he wants to write Batman and what he thinks, not telling you who Batman is. And there is a difference there. Like, writing from this perspective of like, this is what I think Batman looks like, is a little different from being like, I'm going to show you a Batman you haven't seen before. Even if what you think Batman looks like isn't like a Batman I've seen before. And there is a little hint of that. This is a lot of like, let me introduce you to myself, Matt Fraction, and my ideas about Batman, rather than like, the writer disappears behind the story and the story reveals to you what it has to say.
And this is one of those few times where I would have lived for a mini series that led into this, where he had a chance to tell these kind of stories, because making a master like this do his work like this, where it's all resting on this one issue. I'm just disappointed that editorial didn't maybe do more prestige work here.
Yeah, totally.
That said, I'm gonna keep reading the run. I'm giving this a B-, but a positive vibe forward.
Yeah. There was nothing about this where I was like, this is terrible. There's just nothing about it where I was like, game changer. As somebody who's getting completely enmeshed in Batman in a very like, this is my Batman immersion year. This didn't add anything to that conversation, really.
Yeah, no, for the year of our Bat 2025, I just don't feel like this brought me to new Wayne heights.
Yes.
And on that same note, I just feel like I maybe had a really disappointing month with DC. I feel like I did not love where Justice League Unlimited 10 went. I really did not enjoy Justice League Red #1, which felt like 3 issues on fast forward. I was so confused how Dark Tomorrow wasn't just Justice League Unlimited 9 again. Like, I just didn't get enough from this round of books. I actually kind of feel unusually, I'm a little disappointed by DC this week.
I had a little more fun because I don't have as much experience with all the characters, and I really like Justice League books right now because everybody gets to play a little bit.
Oh, shway.
And I just have never read a story besides accepting other stories this year. I've never read a Red Tornado story. So Red Tornado assembles a group that has appealed to me. There was a lot that was not great about it. I think it made poor use of the characters that it pulled kind of for no reason. It was also like the concept is maybe sort of nonsense. I don't buy it. And every book is just not quite touching enough, not quite talking to each other enough. It's a huge problem in Marvel. They're way too distant, and I'm going to be talking about that a bunch. But in DC, the problem almost seems as big because they're so close, but they need to be like, I wouldn't have called this Justice League Red. I would have called them all Justice League Unlimited something, even if they weren't the next number of Justice League Unlimited. I would have, Justice League Unlimited Red or something.
Yeah.
These are all tie-in. These are all tied together. And Dark Tomorrow, again, same thing. Like, it's just another issue of what's going on in Justice League Unlimited, which is this is all the ramifications of the crazy stuff that they did with Darkseid in the All-In special, and it is leading up to the next thing. That's all cool. It's very confusing if you are a new reader. There's a lot here that I'm not clear if it's obvious information when you have been reading a lot of DC, or if it's just very confusing no matter who you are. For me, one of the biggest confusions is, and this isn't, I mean, I think it's obvious that they're intended to be two different entities, but it's just like saying it so much and bringing it up. When All In ended, like the last splash page, is Darkseid being like my legion, and it's a dark legion of superheroes, and you sort of always know that that's going to be a thing at some point. And then most of Justice League Unlimited is about a Legion of Doom, but then at the very end, the Dark Legion of Superheroes comes back, and it's just saying Legion a lot. And it just is slop. It's just messy. It's just a lot of noise. So, you know, that was really, I had more fun than you had because this is my first day out with so many of these people, and that's always going to be a little bit fun unless it's really bad. But stepping away from that, it's very messy.
Yeah, and it's sort of messy that I'm willing to let it happen. I'm willing to see where these stories go, but like I'm ultimately very excited to see more Marilyn Moonlight. That's a character I really appreciate.
Tell me one thing. I've never seen that person in my life.
She is a background character in Gotham who's magically connected to the city.
Okay.
And she is
like a Jack Hawksmoor for Gotham?
Yes, but kind of like what if Batman was actually magically linked to the city?
Got it.
And she's really cool, and she's got some awesome backstory stuff, and it gets a little
This
messy.
one is time displaced.
I think she's ours, because like the real one is time displaced.
Okay.
Vaguely.
Yeah, right, okay.
So
that's another thing is like Helena Wayne isn't time displaced. She's from a different timeline. She's from a different Earth. So that's confusing too. You know, I get Batman Beyond is a great example because he ostensibly can be from the future of this current world that we're living in. But if I know one thing about Helena Wayne, she's not from the past, I don't think. I mean, I guess because DC's so confused about what's its own past and then what's an alternate past now. But that was a moment for me where I was like, they're disconnected from every other universe, and Helena Wayne is from another universe.
And you know, but because like
I guess maybe she's from the future, and I'm just not accounting for that.
She's really from the past.
Right, well, that I know. I mean,
Yeah.
I know she's supposed to be, but she's from another Earth. It's so confusing. I don't know, man. It's just not
Terry's from another Earth's future.
right. But you could at least kind of lie about that one, since it's in the future. You can be like, it's their future. Like they'll have a Batman Beyond. It might not be the one that.
Okay.
You know, I don't. I'm just trying. Like, I'll give them some benefit of the doubt, but this is what I'm talking about with like, I had fun and I didn't, Marilyn Moonlight, great example. I thought that character was so cool the moment she popped on screen. I was so excited to see Helena Wayne because the only experience I have with Birds of Prey is the Birds of Prey TV show with Helena Wayne, and I love it. I just think it's so good. So like, I'm having fun, but also as soon as I smile and get on with that, I go, wait a second, there's no way she can be here. Or I don't understand how she can be here. I don't understand where she's time displaced from.
And I think that's even part of where like my notes are like, this squadron is basically the Exiles, and I'm so excited about it. But like, I'm not getting enough answers. And like, you know, we've got Damian Wayne showing up in the back of Batman, and whatever's going on there, I don't know how it can be that serious if he and Batman are gonna go over and wind up in DCKO, and Batman was meant to launch at this time. DCKO was meant to come out at this time. So it's not exactly like whatever happens. It either means that Damian can't be particularly efficacious in Batman or in DCKO, or more likely, neither. Yeah. You know, I like how you used both, but I'm going to use neither. And like, you wind up in a position where like, it's really stupid, but like I'm lucky enough to have a rhythm game for one of my favorite things in the universe, and like I get so excited when I play Theater Rhythm. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Can I tell you how often I'm like, why the fuck isn't that one of the songs they picked? How did that song from this soundtrack not make it into any version of this game? What a waste. Why are you doing this amazing thing and you're using it so well, and you're making this thing I never thought you would make, but you're filling it with the things the fans don't want? And that's kind of what I think happened here. Like, they're giving us more Damian, which is what we want, and they're putting him in significant places, but they're not doing what we want with it.
Yeah.
stories that matter, because like not to anything, but like by all means, anyone fans, call me now, okay? And I'm going to tell you, I am also a fake psychic, and know that none of you are going to call, because when I give you the prompt, you're going to understand. I want anyone to tell me one thing that any other Robin has done since Dick becoming Nightwing that changed them permanently. Because here's the thing. Jason Todd did not choose to die. Jason Todd was killed and became Red Hood. Tim Drake has switched to Red Robin and switched back a bunch of times. Ooh, effective. Damian Wayne. Oh, is it that his mom is Talia? Yeah, he had something to do with that, I'm sure. So, like, other than Dick choosing to become Nightwing, give me one moment where one Robin has been allowed to grow the fuck up as a Robin.
And what's kind of a bummer, actually, now that you mentioned that, is like that was the point of Batman and Robin, the title, is Damian sort of growing up a little bit. And it's it's bookmarked. Somebody else could pick up on it. But I feel very confident that Fraction's run will not reflect him as a young man who doesn't quite want to be like Bruce. He wants to be a doctor. Like, he wants to be like Thomas. He wants to help people in a different way. And he still wants to be Robin.
Yeah.
And he wants to inherit a lot of his father's legacy, but he wants to do other stuff. And that combination right there, that's a new superhero. That's not Robin. That's him becoming his version of Nightwing. Red, as you said, like Red Hood, cool character, right for Jason. Everything's great. Everything's fine. But
we're getting our mature title this month, In Continuity, Present Continuity, written by a woman. Couldn't be more excited.
But he fell into becoming that. That is not, I realized who I was and I took the mantle. It is, I got dead and I am miserable. Tim has made also a lot of personal decisions. Unfortunately and fortunately, I think Tim is very defined by his sexuality for DC, as being like a really prominent character, part of a really prominent DC family who is queer and male, two things we often find it difficult to associate with masculinity. And I don't want him to be Pink Robin, but I'm always waiting for the book where the vigilante specifically is like, I'm going to avenge and protect the queer community. Like, I've always wanted a queer Punisher. I've always wanted a bashback Punisher. Like, Tim could be that character. He just isn't. He just doesn't do it. Like, he shows up like the other Robins. It is kind of like, are we just going to keep adding them?
And at what point, like, are you adding too much? Because that's even the nature of my frustration with JSA. JSA is at this point getting to be a title I'm struggling to follow more and more. And it's got everything it should have for me to love it. It has multiple generations of characters that I care about. It has constant flashbacks and references to continuity that I enjoy. It's written by somebody I like very much. So I just can't figure out why every time I try to connect with JSA, it's just flat for me. I really love those early issues. They really excited me, but it unfortunately feels like when you start at a 91, there's nowhere to go. And that's not to say, when you start perfect, you're going to get terrible right away. No, because you can continue to evolve that idea. But, funny story, one time I was talking to series contributor Tori Shin, and I said, part of why I don't like Florence and the Machine's later albums is I feel like they sound kind of identical track for track, like line-upable to Lungs and Ceremonials, and it loses magic for me as it sounds reiterative. And I think that's kind of my frustration. The Robins feel reiterative, and the Batman #1 felt reiterative, and JSA as a title features like 35 characters. That's a lot of characters to feel like they're spinning their wheels iteratively.
Yeah, I really feel where you're coming from. I think there's a lot of that in Justice League Unlimited too. But again, like this I will say is a bigger problem for JSA. I don't care about anyone in The only one I care about really is Alan Scott. And for as many characters as it has, it actually doesn't have that many, because we kind of stay relatively narrowly focused on a bunch of characters that like are not the most compelling, and that I don't feel the writer has an into why they're interesting right now. And Justice League Unlimited is really Mark Waid is lucky because he can just be like, here's Metamorpho, like just doing surgery with Dr. Niles from Doom Patrol. They're not going to have a whole storyline. They're not going to show up a ton, but I don't know Metamorpho and I don't see Dr. Niles a lot. So what a little treat that they did a power circuit and did surgery. That's new for me. That's fun for me. That's a little get and a little gimme. That keeps the book fresh enough that even though there's a lot about it where I'm like, oh, this is confusing, this is hard to follow, this is not the most interesting thing I've ever read, I walk away with some prizes.
Well, and I love that idea of you walk away with something, because like I do walk away from each one of the titles we talked about from DC with something. The Dark Tomorrow Special, Unlimited, JSA, Batman #1, Justice League Red, even. They all gave me something. You know, in some cases it's a serious venereal disease, but like, you know, for the most part, it's high fun, entertainment, and funny pages. The problem is I have DC Infinite, and I'm a whatever the Lightning Lane membership is. I don't fucking, it's whatever the big time paid too much money to the app game, and like that's what I have. And the reason I have that is because 3 weeks after the book is out, it's on the app. So it's hard for me to buy DC books when I'm paying $120 a year to get them 3 weeks later, unlimitedly. And none of these made me want to run out and buy anything.
Yep, 100% true and reasonable.
So I'm looking forward to getting back to some of the absolutes that I think are run out and buy. I'm looking forward to getting back to Wonder Woman, which I think is run out and buy. Superman is run out and buy the trade. So there's a lot of great coming out from DC that I just can't wait to sink my teeth into. There's also a lot of really cool Superman one-shots right now. We'll go over the Krypton Color series that they just did with all of those new shades of Kryptonite. That was really exciting. We'll talk about the book of Kal-El. We'll talk about it. We got some good stuff. But on the whole, it's okay for me that I had a bad week with DC, because I feel like I've had so many good weeks with DC in the last couple of months that it's almost okay to not love a week, because it means that I'm not losing objectivity.
Yeah, of course.
So, DC guys, you know, much like another DC I'm thinking of, you guys can win me back. So, just get some new people in there. But with that, I think we got to flip over to what this show is all about. All right, guys. You guys might have heard this show talks X-Men. Let's talk some X-Men. We sound so happy. I know that we are in a frustrating position for the X universe spinning its X wheels, right? Like, we are in a place where all of the X books are just sort of stuck responding to themselves. So we're going to be talking about the Giant Size X titles: Emma Frost, White Queen; Storm, Psylocke; Phoenix; Wolverine, and Kitty. You were right. And this is a list of Uncanny, X-Men, and Exceptional. That's it, right? Because that's everything being published. I'll start with Wolverine and Kitty Pryde because it's not what we needed.
We can knock that out real quick.
I don't know who keeps saying to Chris Claremont, go back to your... When the problem is when they say to Chris Claremont, go back to your best stuff, you're immediately giving him the opportunity to go back to his best stuff. And then I can make the comparison, right? Like, if you want me to think that the Justin Timberlake is the cutest member of NSYNC, don't put him next to Joey Fatone. And we won't have that problem, right? So... you gotta really think about this shit when you're playing your game here. And this is an example of what they should do is they should just give him a Battle World book. He should be allowed to pull anybody from any timeline, anytime. They get no memory of it. They go back some way to make it matter. But like, stop giving him stuff that goes in between other stuff, because then I can really... Rotten jelly tastes funny between delicious bread.
Here's what I'll say about this one. I think it could have been very interesting between the end of Hellfire Gala 3 and when Kitty comes back. Because... All right, yeah, no, I think that timing is correct. There is a moment where Kitty is distraught by what happened at the Hellfire Gala, or just after the Hellfire Gala. She killed a bunch of people, and she realizes that they're all in a lot of trouble, and she gets a note from Ogun, which is confusing. I'm sure Ogun has been resurrected at some point in continuity, but whatever. And he's like, here are your swords, become what you need to be. And she becomes I hate using the word ninja because it's sort of a mix of offensive and not real, but she goes back to being a trained in Madripoor assassin warrior, cuts off all her hair. But the thing is, for fans new and old, there's a really big disconnect at this point from the time that Kitty became that person and got that training and learned those things. And Kitty spends a lot of times in books not seeming that badass. And I think while it still wouldn't have been any good to have published this story when Kitty takes on that identity, just to remind people that like that was a thing that happened. And then also Chris Claremont felt that there was more, like she got put even more through the ringer. So when you see her in current X books being this absolute warrior, this martial artist, this killer, it comes from a real thing that happened. And here's a supplemental story. Divorced from that, it has basically no value.
And I really love how you're finding ways to contextualize it powerfully. You know, Ogun has been resurrected like 100 times.
Yeah, I'm sure. I just don't really think about it.
He's the bad guy of the Wolverines era when everybody is filling in for Logan because he's dead.
Oh, yeah. I do
them.
Remember that. Yeah.
And like, so I think that's how his spirit is back in the mix right now.
Yeah.
You could have made this so cool. You could have made this valuable and like had like little 4-pagers on either side of it by incredible non-binary and non-male presenting writers who deserve a chance to write Kitty Pryde in a Wolverine story, and those additional 4 pages would have made it fantastic. So yeah, honestly though, this is bad, and we got to stop giving Chris Claremont an opportunity to point to when he was the most on his game, because it is just the law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Breaks my heart. But let's talk about something that could not exist without Chris Claremont. I have a lot of feelings on this Phoenix run. I think it is the most important thing to happen to Jean Grey since Grant Morrison killed her. I think, because guys, remember, Magneto didn't kill Jean Grey. Grant Morrison did. And so I like to remind Kieran Gillen that Marvel didn't end Uncanny X-Men. He was the writer on the book when it was canceled twice. So I say that with Kieran Gillen's Uncanny X-Men being like my number 1 of all time. So I'm just being stupid. But I really feel like this Phoenix run, Jean is operating as though she's Doctor Strange. Jean is operating as though she's Thor. We're not, because even Storm's title, Storm is getting powers from, and I want to be careful when I say this. If Storm is getting powers from other entities and other spirits, to me, it is a beautiful call to the identity of Black tradition calling on ancestors. For me, it's a beautiful tribute to the idea of Storm's Black ancestry, and that she has always referred to the women that came before her as guides and spirits she trusts. So that she seems to turn to external forces that are defined as not Storm doesn't bother me, but it does occasionally reduce the power of the title. Jean goes out of her way to say, I am Phoenix and Phoenix is me. Any act I commit as Phoenix is me doing it. Even if there's two minds in this body, it's my power. So everything she's doing, if this were a Daredevil book, people would be fucking begging it to be canceled because it's doing too many wild swings. I mean, obviously you would adjust it for his power level. I'm not being ridiculous. People would even challenge this as a Thor run. This is doing such big mega swings with this character in a way that I don't think I'm used to seeing a redheaded woman swung in comics unless it's by a man into a wall. Like, this is unusual to treat a woman with so much power and dignity for an industry that continues to treat women as battered spouses, victims, and whores. And it's almost impossible to believe.
And the fact that it's written by a woman, we love that aspect of it. I mean, I really agree with you. It works hard to constantly promise you that it is as relevant as it says it is. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it's taking really big swings. And I love that idea that Jean is showing up like Doctor Strange. She is because the Earth needs a Sorcerer Supreme, and that is said time and time again. And other dimensions do too. There's a Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension. Like, we know other people, but like, places need a Sorcerer Supreme. It is a constant in locations, and we've met the one from 1 billion years ago in Jason Aaron's run. We know that there's always supposed to be a Sorcerer Supreme, and the Phoenix is a constant too. The Phoenix is like Galactus, a force in the universe that must exist at all times. And this idea that it's inextricably linked to Jean, I think other writers have flirted with it in ways that aren't as powerful. We for years it was just a thing that possessed her. Grant Morrison gave us Jean is the house that I live in. And from there we started to be like, oh, they'll never quit each other. But lately we've moved much more, and Stephanie Phillips has really embraced this idea that, like, no, as an avatar of the Phoenix, Jean is the Phoenix, and like the actions that her mind takes to use the Phoenix power are part of the Phoenix's constants in the universe and its maintenance of the universe and the things that it's doing in the universe. And I think that's a really strong and interesting take. I will say all of the solo women books are really strong for the X-Men. They enhance the X-Men community best to me. They move things forward. They move everybody's stories along, I think, honestly, better than the team books do. I'm talking Psylocke, I'm talking Magic, I'm talking Storm, I'm talking Phoenix.
Though goodbye to Psylocke. I believe that ended with issue 10.
That was the last issue. We got to a point this week with the two issues that we're covering, with two of the issues that we're covering, that really bummed me out. And again, I just look at its editorial and I really get frustrated. The Storm and Jean book should basically be crossing over at this point.
For some direct reasons, not even like in an esoteric way.
No, for very direct reasons. And it just is very it's very disappointing. Like I said, on Justice League, the books are like so close to touching. It's glaringly problematic because just like have them close hands and hold each other and all be linked. Again, call them all Justice League Unlimited, but you can give these one shots or spinoffs slightly different names, but keep indicating to us that they're all connected. With Marvel, how can Jean be talking to all of the abstract entities in her book and then show up to see Storm talking to all the abstract entities in her book?
I don't know because it's not one of those things like, how is it that Ally McBeal can get through a whole sentence when she's on the practice, but like she just can't, she can't manage to get through an entire, she doesn't want to, John. Like, what is the difference in the characterization by the same company with the same characters focused around the same editorial team that you can't replicate the voice or the structure of the experience? I root for the long-term success of big solo lines at Marvel and DC, but not if you're going to make it seem so disparate. I saw an announcement for move over DC, watch out Marvel, there's a new shared creator universe coming your way, and it looks good. And I feel so bad because one of the things that's frustrating is the name is like and I'm not coming for anybody, so I'm not, but it's got that very Marvel kind of vibe to it. It's got that very look at me powerful title. But all of the press releases I've seen so far say things like, and each writer will share their corner of the universe in their stories. But then is that really a shared universe? Is that any better than what's going on here in Marvel, where these characters see each other and have illogical experiences together because they should be engaging based on their and that's even what happens when people are like, how can you, say that you're a fan of Jean, but you don't like out of continuity Jean stories? Well, because I'm sorry, but Kitty should be changed by her experience with Domina in Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, where she became a synthetic, like part of a synthetic cybernetic consciousness as the person most connected to and involved in the Douglock saga, about a person becoming a cloned version of themselves with genetic components of a robot mind. You would think that then the 6 years of storytelling that involved her helping somebody who went through what she went through would be very different. That's why these stories start to get to me after a while. Because when you can't acknowledge these other things happened on these other pages, you're giving up the point.
Yeah, exactly. And I get that it can be difficult with publishing schedules, but like the abstract entities are showing up in Jean Grey personified, and they all look really cool, actually. I don't know, I don't think we've seen all of these personifications. They also got me in Mind of Gods, because I think some of them we did see in Gods, but I don't believe we saw all of them. I believe the In-Betweener we definitely did see in Gods, but I don't believe we got all of these. And like, and then they show up in Storm and they don't look anything like that, and they also just like their status is really different. I don't know, it just, maybe next week they will reference each other, but it doesn't seem like it's possible because the Storm War is about to end, and Jean probably has like 2 or 3 in this arc, maybe not, but like who's going to be like, I literally just saw you? Like, which book are the abstract entities going to be like, oh, Jean just showed up, we literally just saw her? Or are they going to be like, we were just talking to you with Storm, why do we still have a problem? It's a bummer, because I want everybody to be able to use the characters, and both Murewa Ayodele and Stephanie Phillips have cool ideas for why the abstract entities should be there. I don't mind them being in 2 places at once. I don't mind Jean being in 2 places at once. Editorial, just like help, like do something about it. Anything. I don't know, man. It's very confusing to me, and it pulls both stories down a bunch. But I have to give Stephanie Phillips incredible credit for writing a great Cable and writing a great Cable in Jean.
Oh my God. Because one of the things that is so hard to get right, like all of us have had a fight with our parent where we are maybe perhaps not smarter, not better, not more capable, more knowledgeable on the topic. If there's somebody who knows a little bit more about manifestations of psychic entities that are not the Phoenix, it's going to be Cable. Because Jean's experiences with other psychic entities is, it's always as Jean the Phoenix, right? That balance there was one of the things that was exciting, and noting that, in-betweeners from gods, we believe, and seeing Gore and all of these other characters run through the pages of Phoenix was exciting, because I was pretty disappointed not when Riri showed up in Exceptional, but when it felt like Riri's story moved into Exceptional for 8 pages, and it even was like, Tank last fought Riri in this issue. And I'm like, look, I love Riri. I'm a big Riri fan. I think I've read literally every Riri solo series. I'm like, not like bragging, not like, oh, well, I've done it. Like, get Marvel Unlimited. You can do it too. I'm not special. But like, I've done it, and I'm proud because I love this character. But I already feel like there is no one in Exceptional X-Men who gets enough time. There is no one in Exceptional X-Men who is like a fully developed character that I recognize. We were just at a convention, and we were in a room with a number of other amazing X-Men podcasters, all of whom opinions I totally respect. I'm kidding. The wink was just being stupid. But no, I really respect the people that were in this room. And I heard a lot of people say how well they feel they know all of the kids between Uncanny and Exceptional. And I'm like, how? Because I've read every page of these kids too. And other than what I would project into them that I consider personal fanon, there's not a lot there that isn't genuinely pretty script to continua dialogue that you just stylize uniquely.
Yeah, I mean, of the groups of kids that we have spread throughout these books, which again I think is a problem, the Exceptional ones, I don't know. I mean, it just feels like maybe it's because they're a little bit behind. They're at issue 12, and the other ones are at issue 20 and 21.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just don't. The biggest thing is it just feels like this instinct to have Kitty be really reticent about the whole thing is verging into the improv. You're not doing yes and. So it seems like so much of the book is just about like Kitty wishing this wasn't happening. And Emma and everybody else sort of passively being like, oh, you know how she gets. And then the kids are like, please train us to fight. But then like they're like kind of in a gym. Scott's kids are like already a paramilitary force, and then rogues are like really learning to fight. So I just I don't know what the mission is, and it's something that really bothers me about all of the X-Team books is like it literally feels like they are staying in houses of cards. Like just it feels like one attack from one bad guy will blow up that building that they're in, or the Haven house, and then they literally have nowhere to go. And everything just feels so disparate. I wouldn't even mind if they were where they were, but like, I guess the thing that I'm always getting to is that for me, part of it is that the X-Men are an organization. They should always be some kind of organization with some kind of leadership. And I don't mind if Rogue and all of them are in Louisiana, but they should be in the Louisiana satellite base that has some standard X-Men stuff, because X-Men take care of each other and they make sure they're well supplied. If Emma wants to have a place in Chicago, she has all the money in the world to outfit them with a place. But again, Kitty is like, no, don't, because that's too much like being X-Men. And so like they're X-Men, but they're just sleeping in somebody's house. Like they don't go to work, but the kids go to school. Who's paying for anything? Not that these questions, I want to like delve into their jobs, but like, what is the organization that is allowed? Everybody keeps being like, you Rogue and your people are the X-Men, but like, besides being called that, how? And Scott's like, very much they're the X-Men, but they also live in a rat trap sentinel hellhole in Alaska.
Okay, can I say what this is for me?
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to explain what I'm talking about, but this is how I feel when you say anybody can do SCP. This is how I feel, where I'm like, wait, so anybody can just be like, and part of this, and like they're just doing it. So anybody can be an X-Man as long as you're a mutant and you've got the vibe. You can just grab a badge and you're doing it. And like, it doesn't work for me.
That does make some amount of sense. So I will explain it really quickly for anybody who doesn't know. The SCP Archives is an online wiki, fictional wiki that collects basically stories about monstrous entities and anomalies. And it is open source and public. And really anybody, literally, you could turn off this podcast and go write an SCP. You could write a boogeyman local to your area, and you sort of figure out what the numbering conventions are, and you what the writing style is, and then you can submit it, and it doesn't just automatically go up there. Like, it has to be sort of like voted on and selected and approved. But then there's also like this other part of it where, because it's open source, you can essentially take everything and split it off and make your own SCP universe.
Looking at you, Stacy X.
There you go. You can make your own continuity and universe. So yeah, I do get what you're saying.
And like, somebody should do the Stacy X starts a sex positive, her own space book, and they should be able to, because anyone who's been an X-Man is an X-Man, right? I don't like X-Men. And it's one of those things, like, it's not bad. I'm not disparaging the creators. I'm not disparaging the title. I don't like it. It's just not for me. And it would be a moot point to argue about it. And it's even that I don't have the same, I think, story politics as Jed MacKay. He was talking about how he revitalized the character Chrome, who is a minor character from the, Mutant Genesis era, right? And he was saying how he wanted to use a character that had some history that hadn't been used, and I'm like, maybe it's that he's used everybody, but I don't ever have to look for somebody that I'm like, oh, who doesn't have, like, I'm always like, canon's dripping with it, and like, somebody says to me, pitch me X Factor with no one who's ever been on X Factor or X Force right now. And I could. And like, I find Jed MacKay's search for deep cut characters to explain everything, Chrome, Varney, exhausting and unfulfilling. And that his X-Men seems to be an exploration of the bizarre and unfulfilling. It's just not a book for me as much as I root for its continued success.
Yeah, I really feel the same way. I just don't get what I'm supposed to take from it. Like, it feels at least the most like an X-Men book, and so there's something at least steadfast about it. Like, there is an organization and a team, but like, all of his characters are, I shouldn't say all of them, the characters are so often antagonistic that it actually makes the moments when they're not, which we got one in the most recent issue where Psylocke is just having a conversation about boys with Edie, whose boyfriend is one of the X-Men from Rogue's team, which is like, again, would make so much more sense if they were all X-Men in the way that like they actually spent time together, but like they are they're in a cyber relationship, and then they hang out at the Hellfire Gala because like there's no crossover between Scott's team. Like, that's not a gold team to Rogue's blue team, to the point where Scott's team just randomly shows up to a New Orleans hospital that's on fire, and Rogue is shocked that he is there. Because why would he be? Because that's nowhere near. They're in Alaska. Yes, magic can get there, but they don't, as a group of people, ever talk about, hey, and if things ever get bad, radio us and we can get there really quick. Like, we can give you missions, you can give us missions. There's nothing like that. And I'm not in love with the art in this book. I am not in love with the conception of a lot of the characters. I'm not in love with the reveals. There's not a lot that I can take away from this. As I keep saying to anybody who will listen, I think Jed MacKay is a very good writer. I think there's a lot of stuff I would dream to see him write. And the thing I keep talking about is I'm so serious about this. And I know it sounds like I'm giving him a demotion or a downgrade, but what I actually want is for this to be a really huge book that is his best writing. And I just really want him to write Alpha Flight. He's so clearly like my favorite soda of the 90s Canadian. And he clearly loves that team. He clearly gets it in a way that I think a lot of American writers write Canada and Marvel Canadian people like either, yes, technically they were born there, but they're American, or Canada is like our flop little brother that has nothing of interest to give us. And Jed MacKay, who is Canadian and writing a lot of American characters, writes them like they are exactly what they are, which is essentially the same as us, just from a different country. I think he would write an amazing Alpha Flight. I'm just tired of this book.
You know, I really hope that his Alpha Flight has the kind of comeback that clearly Canadian is trying to have right now. That would be really cool.
That would be.
But I feel like we are just in kind of a holding pattern, which, okay, holding pattern with Jed MacKay, holding pattern with Gail Simone, like I'm not. By the way, for those of you who watch on YouTube, our YouTube audience, we love you so much. You're so. But this show is predominantly listened to, and so I need to start narrating the actions because more people listen than watch. To that end, I made a really disappointed face in holding pattern for Jed MacKay, but made only a slightly like that was a ruined orgasm face for Gwen Stefani. Sorry, wrong 90s lady who is a totally different person than she was then. Because Gail Simone has managed to get even cooler, and I never thought that would be possible. But Gwen Stefani, Gail Simone, that is an unfortunate. That's ooh. So woof. I was at a 9 Inch Nails show till like midnight last night. My brains are just shattered. I don't remember what anything is anymore. But the big thing for me with Uncanny is it never really feels like anything's changed. It kind of feels like Uncanny is the book from the pitch, and that's actually its own talent. That's like an old school comics thing where you can keep doing the book from the pitch. I think I've got one more arc in me of the book from the pitch. And then my very fast-paced needs it at the speed that life goes, needs it to evolve. Like Fred into Lucas. I need us to keep moving whatever it was we loved as children into what it's going to be as a weird queer adult. And this Uncanny has got to get a move on because nothing has let me down yet. But we are teeter-tottering dangerously close to Weeble Wobble.
I have not always agreed with kind of the direction Gail sees for the team and for the book and for what's happening here. I've always really respected the emotions behind everything and her conception of the characters' internal lives, how they feel about each other. But then there are things like at the same time, as much as I like Gambit and Rogue being surrogate parents to the point where, you know, the kids have a nightmare and one of the kids has a nightmare and Gambit asks if she can sleep in bed with Rogue. Like, that's so sweet. And I love that. And then at the same time, I'm just like, so this is just like the school that everybody's like, we could never do another school. Like, but this is the same thing, except for the fact that they go to public school for like classes. Okay. And
they all have part-time jobs at Claire's.
Well, if only.
Then there'd still be a Claire's.
And so I get into moments like that, and I really see Rogue coming into her own, and then there'll be these moments where Gail will write this long thing where she's like, Nightcrawler has never been happier. Wolverine is always never on guard here. And that just doesn't feel authentic to me. This isn't a great situation. Like, it's a lovely house. I love that they're doing it, but like, this isn't an ideal situation. Again, they have no backing from anybody. They have no organization. All of their other friends, of which they have many, are elsewhere. Kelly, I love you so much, but why are you not addressing the fact that Jubilee has a child that she is a drag, and she just doesn't like? I mean, having seen the two things, the death of a child is so horrible, and I really think almost equally horrible is not being able to have access to your child that you love and would like to raise.
We have been talking about something a lot lately, and if I were to say to you tomorrow, TK, I know what I want to do after Amalgam. I want to talk about when versions of characters are specifically recurrent ideas. So I love that there are writers, and I'm going to be very careful when I say this, because a lot of writers are, you wouldn't believe it, but somehow a lot of writers began their careers in amateur writing and fanfic, and every now and then someone will get to Marvel, and I'm going to make this up completely. Their ship was Cable Shatterstar. And for them, Shatterstar called Cable Daddy, and he was a good boy and took care of his very sexy dad all the time. And it was exactly what they wrote in all of their nifty stories. And then they make it to Marvel. And all of a sudden, when they start writing these characters, Shatterstar's love for Cable is inexplicably powerful. And Cable's avuncular relationship with Benjamin Godriva Russell, 7, becomes romantic almost. And we see those threads. We see that very Paul looking at John on S Club kind of moment, right? And I feel like we are entering an age where DC has the good nature to call it other things, but Marvel just says, no, it's the Gail Simone title. And that is why everybody is the Gail Simone version of the characters. It's not just your pet characters like Salad and Ahmed, and frankly, Stephanie Williams with Tank. Eve Ewing with Tank. I'm sorry. There are so few women writers at Marvel. My confusing any of them is inexcusable, and I will literally like to apologize. But that's how I feel about Tank showing up. That's your character. I understand now. And like, your iteration of a character is as equally powerful.
And
I would love to know your thought on that. Like, people who only write their version of a character when there's another version of a character going in every other fucking book.
Yeah, I mean, you know my thing on that. Like, it's kind of it's an offshoot of the Nyla Skin thing. Like, yeah, do I want you to have your thing? Yes. Your version can quickly become a pet version. And it can quickly become like you're unable to listen to the voices, the other voices, your peers and your contemporaries and your predecessors who all informed that same thing. I love for you to have your characters too, and the way you think about them. I always feel you will be most effective if you can figure out how to show me one line at least. I feel like 2 or 3 is really ideal to the stuff that came before, to other people that you read. Like, you know, I feel like there's this sort of insulting thing where people are, when, you know, readers ask for this, where people are like, well, no, I'm not going to go read 100 issues of X-Men and then just write the same rogue that Chris Claremont wrote. I'm my own writer. I do my own thing. And comics is just unique because I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to read the issues. I am. And the other part of it is like, maybe you are literally not paid enough to stop and take the time because we're not paying comic writers enough. And like that sort of research should be part of, you know, you should be able to bill for those hours. And that's really important.
I love that.
But like, yeah, I do kind of want you to go back and do some homework and then show me that you did the homework and show me that your idea of a character and your voice for a character evolved not just out of your own head and your own even reading, but really a close reading of other voices that you can say, like, this has to have had an effect on fans.
You know, Kevo, one of the things that I've been bringing up a lot lately is I am rarely this excited about something as I am about the Fantastic Four Gargoyles crossover, because number one, Greg Weisman belongs in the Marvel Universe, but number two, that is such an idyllic combination. And like, as somebody who's coming in from this third-party angle, what would you want to see brought over into Fantastic Four from Gargoyles without making it Gargoyles in Fantastic Four, the Gargoyles book, and vice versa? Where is your happy place of that sort of like, I've read what I've read and I know what's coming up?
You know, it's funny. I saw a post on the Disney Television Animation Facebook page today talking about the Fantastic Four Gargoyles thing, and there was a bit of a preview from it, and one of the comments was saying, oh, they should just bring the Gargoyles into the Marvel Universe. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, I'm not hating on it if they do. Like, it'd be interesting. But I was very nervous when I heard about this, especially after the experience you guys had with the Godzilla crossover in DC, where it did not really do justice to either side. And this felt so random. Fantastic Four is not necessarily, I feel, the most known or title that you would automatically go to in the first place. But then again, Gargoyles is really a family book. So I think that's something that I am most excited to get to and experience this crossover, is that they do have that in common. So that'll be very interesting. But I don't know, something we talked about last week that I thought was really cool was rather going in the direction of Fantastic Four starting to multiversal journey more, because Disney has all of these properties, so there's kind of no reason not to. So that would be something, you know, not just Gargoyles, but rather the fact that if Disney owns Marvel and there is that reciprocity, we could start seeing IPs, you know, somehow bleed through, because the idea of a multiverse shouldn't just be 800 different versions of Marvel, where there's now 2 different versions of the Ultimate Universe. You know, we can have, you know, we see all these joke covers of the Muppets as Marvel characters, but what would that universe being crossed over into actually look like?
I love that. It was you and I in particular who were talking about the Fantastic Four thing, and it just, what I was saying, this is unique to my perspective for this idea, is that I don't care for the Fantastic Four or feel like they do anything. And so like, one really flagship thing that the first family could do is go explore the Disney Cosmoverse. They could explore everything that Disney owns. And
there's so much that they could. It's not even princess stuff.
And like, at the end of the day, when they came back to reality, when they came back to 616, we don't know, they don't ever have to incorporate or mention any of it. But yeah, they could go meet the Gargoyles. They could go to the Gargoyle universe and have an adventure there. And I think it'd be cool because it would be the 616 Fantastic Four who did it. And it would just, I don't know, it'd be a way to, at this point, everything's just like buying time, I guess, because I don't know what you I can't imagine what you could do with the Fantastic Four to make them interesting to me besides letting me write my story. But yeah.
You know what? And I mean, like, it's hard almost to talk about how the nature of what we're saying started with, talk about what came before to acknowledge it. But Kevo's point really, and then your point, interacting. It got me thinking. Part of what you need to be able to do is talk about what hasn't happened and what we need to see yet explored. And so for me, that's where my frustration comes in with some of the other titles. Actually, I genuinely wish that Emma Frost White Queen was almost anything else.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing about that title that feels central, that feels significant, that feels intentional. It feels like a publishing schedule situation, and the talent on that title is too great, whether it's the creatives or it's the characters. But that book is coming out like a shoe. Like it's just trotting and treading along. It's not rising above. And I'm just frustrated that the only metaphor I could come up with for that was shoe.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's
a bad metaphor. I agree.
It's another Claremont-esque retcon book that just imagine this time in Emma Frost's life where this thing, that's fine, but like today she's sitting in Chicago in this gym trying to teach 3 kids and no more how to not mutant too hard on the school bus.
And of course, Emma Frost would ever say the phrase "teamiversary."
Truly, I mean, there's so much stuff like that where, I mean, but yeah, I don't know what Emma Frost White Queen is supposed to be doing for me.
And it's a shame because, like, I know we brushed on it really lightly, but just to kind of poke it for a second, Psylocke was a title that was hungry to advance conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If you had asked me 5 years ago, I was gonna say 1 decade ago, but 5 years ago, who was the actual selling point? Conan or Betsy? I would say, well, it's Betsy, because Betsy's the character, right? And so, like, the body she's in is Conan, but the character is Betsy. If you're asking people who they really care about, it's not Blue Fuzzy Beast. It's the sweet, fun-loving, magical guy that we don't really get to see, but that was... he's not the original X-Man. He's the 70s Avenger, and that's who we love, that we see transplanted onto X-Men the Animated Series, that... when Kelsey Grammer gave the world's most intense version of the St. Crispin's Day speech, he gave as that Hank, right? I would have promised you the whole world was into Betsy. No, I'm really sorry. I feel like there are Betsy stans, and I am not going to fight with you about that. But it turns out no one actually cares about the character. It turns out the thing that we all read from 1990 to 2015 or so, we loved because of how she looked. And now we love 2 separate characters. The people that love Captain Britain continue to love Betsy because they love Captain Britain. And she's been Captain Britain connected since day one. Of course, that was her origin by Chris Claremont back in the pages of Captain Britain #8, black and white magazine size book. And then you've got Conan, who is, this made up thing that they continue to make up and make back up and then fake make up and then fake up until they got it to some place that was only slightly offensively horrible for Asian people. Like, I just want, when you said we need to be really careful about ninja, like as a term, like there are 2 places that I specifically find describing people as a ninja really cringe. Number 1, anytime a chef calls themselves a ninja, it's really cringe. And anytime anyone who's not a fucking ninja calls themselves a ninja, it's really cringe. And so those are the 2 situations where I find myself cringing at somebody calling themselves a ninja. But the thing is, whether it's, Bushido Code, Samurai Code, Ninja Code, whatever you're going with, essentially Conan is that. She is that thing that we have created for this character, right? Which not many people realize this, but that's actually the full-time job of the person who took Betsy's eyes from her, Slaymaster. He was a martial artist and assassin. So it's so fascinating that we never really bring that up. But the thing that gets me really excited about this is now there are 2 different people. I'm sorry, but Conan won. Conan won. Betsy got to be a lesbian, which is the best. But Conan got John Greycrow. Conan won.
Yeah, I mean, I think people, it's so weird because like the little bit of finessing that we're all doing is that Betsy for a lot of those years was basically Conan.
Yes.
When Conan got the body back, she was essentially the same person that she had been, because people weren't treating Betsy like a bantam white British woman whose world was Albion. They were treating her like she was an Asian assassin who knew martial arts.
Man, you just proved an incredible lexicon for words that refer to the British.
I do what I can. That's fine. It is a perfectly okay thing to massage, because the assassin who is trained in martial arts, who has purple hair and has a psychic knife, that was a cool character to people, and that deserved to be an Asian woman who was born an Asian woman, and that's her body, and she has autonomy, and this is all happening. And so Psylocke is just kind of Psylocking, and that's great. The flip side of it is I think they did great with Betsy. Yeah, she's less popular. I think they could be doing better only because I would not have put her in X-Force. I would have done a Captain Britain book, and I would have because Captain Britain at times was really big, and if nothing else, Captain Britain is responsible for Earth 616, for the numbering, and that's like one of the hallmarks of literally the entire Marvel company,
of the multiverse identity of metafiction.
Yeah. So like that's enough to hook a book on if you want to make that character popular. Captain Britain's really cool.
It at least earns an Infinity title.
It definitely earns an Infinity title. I mean, I think, Captain Britain is essentially Captain Carter. She's there's captaining everywhere happening. So like, go for it. I think her time is still to come, and I think it's okay that she faded into the background a little bit for Conan to be Conan and to be Psylocke. And yeah, I mean, Alyssa Wong writing an unapologetically Psylocke story that has retconning, it has a lot of new additions, it has I bet you didn't know that I had friends growing up, and like, here, let me introduce you to some of them, to fill up her entire world with stuff and then put it in a very nice backpack that she takes over to Jed McKay's X-Men. I think Alyssa Wong, like it's not Amy Allen, it's but the writer of Magic.
I feel so terrible.
Elizabeth Allen. I mean, it's just I can't pull these names off.
Same. It's, you know what? In part because, and I hate to say it this way, but Marvel keeps writers for so short, it's hard to get attached to anybody. Ashley Allen and Herman Peralta.
The way Ashley Allen is doing the same thing with Magic, and Maria Adeli is doing the same thing with Storm and Avengers, but I sort of don't care as much about the Avengers. So anyway, I think a lot of writers are working really hard at giving these characters really full lives and stories, but again, doing a great job of being like, and take that story and go hang out with your friends too. And I think that's like the ultimate. That's a great thing that's happening in this era where I think not a ton of great stuff is happening.
So I just want to say one great thing that did happen. I'm sorry, I don't want to fight with anybody. I love the Ms. Marvelification of X-Men. I like that they're going to keep these memories, because hold on, they're new memories. No one is saying the other thing didn't happen. Both things happened. And you know why? Because somehow Jean Grey is also the Phoenix. Things can be two things. I like the idea that now Ms. Marvel has all of these memories with all these other heroes, because you know what we don't have enough of? Young people who can talk to these adult heroes like they get them. It's always like, well, I don't know how to adult, but so longtime listeners, it was the Nine Inch Nails concert earlier was with Hot Older Boyfriend and all of his friends, and like I don't know a lot of them that well. They're 10, 12 years older than me. Instead of thinking like, oh, I'm a child in an important situation, I just decided to feel like a fucking adult because I'm a goddamned adult. And I just enjoyed myself in the situations that these characters get in. While yes, Jennifer Lawrence fell over an ottoman like Dick Van Dyke the first time she saw I Don't Give a Shit. Yes, it happens. But it's hard for me to believe that Ms. Marvel would cower in the face of these heroes when she served on Champions with Cyclops. And it just, this made my heart better for where we're going with Marvel. I have a lot more confidence in 7 years from now than I did before this, even if it in of itself was a C- across the board.
Yeah. I do really love putting a lot of eggs in the Ms. Marvel basket. I think she can hold them just fine. And I the first thing I thought about was exactly what you said, which is like, she's never been crazy impressed by adult Scott Summers because she knew teen Scott Summers. Like, and I sort of love the idea. I really, really hope somebody uses, and this is like my dream and then my fear when I think about like who could possibly get Kamala next and write this book next, is like, my dream is that she can go up to every person that was in these books and say, you know, I know we're not super close, but I did know you at a critical time. And, you know, I met you during the Dark Phoenix saga. And I know that you get upset when this thing happens, and that's where we are, and you need to calm down. And I would love if she just could do that on the regular. And my fear is that just like the next person who writes her will love the idea that she's a fangirl. And I love that too, but like then she'll see Iceman and be like, oh, could you sign something? And we'll just never get that aspect of her back. But I do, yeah, that was solid work done. This was not great written, and this was all. I even liked the speech. And her willingness to like forgive Legion, the entity, and to want to work with it. It just felt like that needed maybe even a whole other issue. It really just felt like maybe the hole that we ripped in time was the friends we made along the way. And I
like
just,
Sarah.
Yeah, it was just a little too facile and quick. For such like an epic undertaking. And then it also left us so for stupid as it was, the 05 X-Men going back to their time and the book really clearly explaining exactly what was going to happen. They will lose all of these memories because Jean is locking them up. They will live the rest of their lives as the X-Men that they were, and then at this exact moment they will unlock, and that is how they will remember that they have always been the 05 X-Men, but all of the previous X-Men books can have happened with them without them ever having had those memories. Is it stupid? Is it convoluted? Yeah, but that's comics, baby, and that's why I read. And so when Kamala was just in all of the most important events for the X-Men, and it's just at one little comment where Legion's like, maybe I'll let you keep some memories. I'm like, no, we got to actually really hash out what you're trying to say and do here. Because Kamala is present at events that Jean wasn't there for. Like, Kamala has now experience with parts of the X-Men lore that Jean doesn't have experience with, and that's got to account for quite a lot. So I don't know. I just like, this all just felt like this, again, they keep doing this huge undertaking. Nothing will ever be the same. And then the end result is like, maybe a couple things won't be the same. Did you pay for all these books? Sorry about it.
I feel like we wind up in a position where I was in a situation the other day where it was me and a bunch of gigantic homosexuals and their very queer, loving, straight friends. And I made some comment about how I don't think I've fallen asleep more than 30 nights a year in the last 30 years to something that isn't the Golden Girls. I don't sleep as well if Golden Girls isn't on. I don't know how to explain it, right? And I made a comment about, and everybody's got their favorite episodes. And without prompting, one person shouts, "Condoms, Rose, condoms, condoms." And another person shouts, "Miami, Miami, you've got..." And then somebody else goes, "Turkey, lurkey." And I was sort of like, okay, everybody get it together and shut up. Breathe deep for a minute. We all have our personal interpretation of what Golden Girls is. I said we all have our favorite episodes, and everybody started screaming them in my face. Like, I kind of wanted to share my favorite episodes too. Like, I feel like what winds up happening is so many people have so many ideas of what the X-Men are. And then when all of that is committed to page, you wind up fighting for what actually is the favorite. We were talking earlier in one of our group chats. And we were talking about how there's a difference between fan favorite moment playlists and clip shows, and how they're not the same thing, and how, like, I don't like greatest hits records as a rule. I like making my own playlist. Somebody just my good buddy Matt, who I love so much, he's so great, clocked me on the fact that if my computer is open, I'm on YouTube, and I am probably listening to music, and it's correct. But because I want to make my own lists, I can't help but feel, in a very cool way, in a win for the next generation of big characters, Ms. Marvel, getting to be in all of these moments, was making an amazing playlist of canon, was finding that thing that helps you fall asleep at night. Kamala in the X-Men is healing to people. And, like, I feel like this was an experiment with creating a new version of the Marvel Universe based on one group's reflection. Now, the question is whether or not it lasts, comes up with the next generation of writers and the reflection they want to maintain. And that's where I'm really excited, because I do believe the next generation is going to grab every Julian Keller and every Laura Kinney and, every Kamala Khan they can get their hands on and make sure that they stay heroes in this universe.
I just can't wait for them to get here and start doing it.
Bless. So I don't got more. I think I talked myself to pieces. I am pieces of pieces.
I don't think I have any more either. I'm just looking at our titles to make sure we didn't miss anything. This is, nothing in X-Men. Again, it's sort of like DC. Nothing's unforgivably bad. It's just so complex in the ways that it's not quite working. And there's just so many little things I can point to, and I feel bad because it winds up being this really big list, but it also just feels like some of these are little, like some of these you really could take on, and unfortunately I just don't see it happening in this era, and I am ready for this era to be over.
Same. Kevo, you're not even a part of this era, but I feel like you've got a stake in this game because you produced this. But regardless, talk to me, tell me, you got feels, you got thoughts. We're wrapping up. What are you thinking?
Well, to build on some of the stuff that you guys were saying, because it popped into my head while you were at Nice is Neat last night, Adam Morse reference, I spent all night watching all 6 TOS Star Trek movies, which was a lot of fun. To go back to what TK said about silliness, I think a lot of people frequently forget how silly Star Trek can be and take it too seriously, and you shouldn't. There's a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of camp stuff. But what you were saying, something that I couldn't help feeling with how much with Strange New Worlds, they're talking about what this new cast wants to do and how they want to represent the TOS crew. And I would love to see them be able to recreate significant moments from the TOS or TOS film era, because there's so much more that we can do with filmmaking today. There's so much different perspective we can give it today. And that's something I'm really loving about Strange New Worlds, which you can check out our coverage of from a few weeks ago. We cover it about not the midpoint of the season, a few episodes in, because we're really loving it. And I think that this era of being able to reinvent and reimagine this canon that we love so much has been really cool, just like we've been really enjoying Alien Earth, which has been a completely fresh story and finding unbelievably original ways to use the concepts and core canon of Alien without doing anything to harm what already came before it, because that's really what it's all about. It's what inserting Kamala in there was about. It's what Strange New Worlds is about, and Alien Earth. It's about doing this with love. The person who's writing the new Goonies movie, they're a fan. This was what they wanted to do. The person who did My Little Pony, it was the My Little Ponies they used to play when they were a kid. Like, it's about doing it with love. And
Alyssa Wong's Dr. Aphra was their dream to create into Star Wars.
And if she held her arm like this, she couldn't be killed. Anyway, so I'm loving what we're talking about on this. I'm loving what we're talking about on other sci-fi. I hope we get to talk about Alien at some point. We've been loving talking about Project Runway, but Lord knows we're going to be getting back to Drag Race soon. So you can check all of that stuff out on our channel under the Live tab. And you can check me out on the socials at KEVO Really. That's KEVOREALLY.
KEVO, it is so incredible that you produce this show for us. We do what we do because we comics. You know what I mean? Like, serialized storytelling is part of who you are in ways that you can't escape. There are people that are like, oh, I never watch TV. I'm a movies guy. And I'm kind of like, oh, that's fine. When I hear that Marvel Zombies is only going to be 4 episodes, my first thought is, oh, that's a cool movie. I can't wait for that movie. That movie's going to be great, that movie. Echo is sort of like a weird thing somewhere in between. Its runtime is so unusual that it's hard to tell. But like, then you've got Daredevil Born Again, which is a show, even if it's a short show by, you know, some definitions, right? Because I'm excited to rewatch Alien Earth at 8 hours. It's actually 9 hours. Like, Alien Earth is going to be 9 hours long. It's a TV show. It's one season. But like, there are sitcoms with 20 episodes that are that long. So like, it all works out the way it works out. But like, when you love serialized storytelling, whether you get an hour episode or a 20-minute episode, whether you get 4 pages in an anthology or you get 20 pages in its own title, we wind up obsessed with these ideas. And that's what this whole amalgam project has been for you and I. And like, I feel like we're really getting to some interesting realizations in the amalgam bonuses as a result of what we're covering in these episodes. So even when we're not having the most successful week reading wise, I feel like we're having the best week big brain guy wise. We're big brain guys.
Yeah, this is a lot of big brain energy.
So, I mean, I feel like we are in for a great week for this episode. Our bonus is going to be Magneto and the Magnetic Men, X-Patrol, and JLX. And that is going to be so much fun. Obviously, you guys can always check us out on Wednesdays here. But TK, if people want to check you out, where can they check you out?
You can find me at TK Accidental on your socials. What about you, Nico?
NICO Action, NICOACTION, NICO Action Music, NICOACTIONMUSIC. Guys, don't forget to check out all the feeds of this show. That's X is for show, X is for podcast, X is for comics, and more. HTML husbands talking more or less at all. But 3 things you guys can do: like, comment, and subscribe. It turns out we're big fans of your guys and attention. But also, 3 things you guys can do for yourselves. Number 1, please stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. Number 2, please be brave, because if you're not brave, how will your ideas break into these comics? How will you help advance these things that you love? Your bravery changes the world. But number 3, evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, amazing. Who you are today, increds. But who you are tomorrow, that is the real menu loquacious. And until we come back to order, we'll see you.